My husband, Gu Xiai, pushed the crumpled property transfer document in front of me, aiming, sign it. Although this dilapidated house is unfinished, the land is still worth some money. Sell it, take the money and leave, don't suffer with a blind man like me. I held the pen, looking at his unfocused eyes, my heart aching. Just as I was about to write, a childish roar suddenly came from my belly. Mom! Stop! Don't sign! This isn't just a dilapidated house. It's our family's future Noah's Ark. A severe cold is coming in just half a month, with temperatures plummeting to -50 degrees. This house has geothermal hot springs underneath it, making it the only place in the whole city where we can survive. That green tea bitch in the white dress is reborn. She knows the secret and is waiting for you to sign so she can pick up the bargain. In our past life, she tricked us into going out and freezing into ice sculptures. My hand trembled, and the pen tip scratched a long line on the paper. I looked up and saw my stepsister, Su Fei, standing behind Gu Xiai, staring intently at my hand. I threw the pen away and sneered, I won't sign. From then on, I, Jiang Ning, transformed from a weak and bullied pushover into a husband-protecting maniac. I tore the transfer document to shreds. The expression on Su Fei's face froze, and she took a step forward anxiously. Sis, what are you doing? This is for brother-in-law's own good. Brother-in-law is blind now, and the Gu family has kicked him out. You're burdened with debt, are you going to sell this broken house and starve? The little guy in my belly became agitated again. TCH. You bad woman. Just pretend. You must be gloating inside. Those old fogies in the Gu family are blind too, throwing away such a treasure as garbage to Dad. Mom, hurry up and kick her out. I feel nauseous just looking at her. This is a morning sickness warning. I took a deep breath, enduring the churning in my stomach, and stood up to block Gu Xiai. This is Gu Xi's and my home, whether or not to sell is none of your business. I pointed to the door, my tone firm, now, immediately, get out. Su Fei's eyes widened. I used to be timid and afraid of offending the Gu family, but today I dared to talk to her like this. She bit her lip, turned to look at Gu Xiai, and said aggrievedly, brother-in-law, look at my sister, I'm just trying to help. Although Gu Xiai couldn't see, his face darkened. He groped and grabbed my hand. Su Fei, since Aining doesn't want to sell, then we won't. You're not welcome here. Please leave. Su Fei stomped her feet in anger, glaring at me fiercely. Fine. Jiang Ning, you'll regret this. When the creditors come to your door in a few days, we'll see how you cry. She stomped off in her high heels, slamming the door so hard it shook the heavens. I looked around at the unfinished villa with its walls of cement gray. This was the family property that the Gu family had given to Gu Xiai. Besides this broken, unfinished building on the hillside, Gu Xiai only had 50,000 yuan in savings. But I'm not worried at all now. Because I have a cheat code. I touched my slightly protruding belly and murmured in my heart, son, are you telling the truth? Is the extreme cold really coming? Absolutely. Mom, don't just stand there. We're penniless right now, we have to find a way to make money and stock up. This house is drafty, we need to install glass, seal the roof, and buy coal. Without these, even with the hot springs, we'll catch a cold. Gu Xiai sensed my silence and thought I was regretting it. He let go of my hand and smiled bitterly. Ning, actually Sophie is right, it's useless to keep this house, if you want to. I gripped his hand back and interrupted him. Gu Xiai, do you believe me? He was stunned, his empty eyes met mine. When have I ever doubted you? Good. I gritted my teeth and made a crazy decision. Then give me the remaining 50,000 yuan, and pawn those watches of yours. We need to renovate and buy a lot of things. Without hesitation, Gu Xiai took out a bank card from his pocket and stuffed it into my hand. The password is your birthday. Do whatever you want, if we lose it all, we can always beg on the streets. I looked at the thin card in my hand, my eyes burning. This man, even in his destitution, even blind, still entrusted me with his entire fortune and life. Since my son said there's geothermal hot springs here, then I'm going to turn this unfinished building into a fortress like an iron bucket. I picked up my phone and dialed the number of a contractor I knew. Old Zhao, bring your men, bring the best materials, and come to the hillside villa immediately. I want to seal the roof, install bulletproof glass, and thicken the insulation layer. Money? Take my jewelry as collateral first. If it's not enough, I'll find a way. As long as you work fast, the pay will be doubled. When old Zhao arrived with his construction team, the way he looked at me was as if I were crazy. This villa is located on a desolate mountain in the suburbs. The Gu family initially developed this place to build a resort, but the funding chain broke, leaving only this unfinished mess. Now the Gu family has dumped it on Gu Xiai, making it clear that they want him to fend for himself. Miss Jiang, this house is leaky and drafty. Are you really going to spend a lot of money to repair it? Old Zhao touched the rough cement wall and shook his head repeatedly. This money is going to disappear without a trace. I ignored his doubts and slammed the blueprint on the table. Modify it according to this. Replace all the windows with triple-layer vacuum explosion-proof glass and add 10 centimeters of thick insulation board to the inside and outside of the walls. All pipes must be antifreeze treated, and 2 independent ventilation systems must be installed. Old Zhao looked at the blueprint, his eyes almost popping out. This specification, are you trying to defend against an atomic bomb? I smiled. I'm afraid of the cold, is that okay? The little guy in my belly is acting as my supervisor. Mom, that vent needs to be higher. The snow will block it later. And that door. It needs to be replaced with a heavy steel plate door. That woman Sophie will definitely bring people to pry it open. She brought a locksmith with her last time. I immediately added to Lao Zhao, the main door needs to be replaced with a bank vault level security door. Also, raise the walls by 2 meters and put up electrified barbed wire on top. Lao Zhao swallowed and, without asking any more questions, turned around to tell the workers to get started. As long as the money's right, there's nothing you can't get done. After arranging the renovations, I took Gu Xiai to the city's pawn shop. The watches Gu Xiai had collected before, and my designer bags, were all exchanged for cash. We raised a total of 3 million. This amount of money might not buy much normally, but in a situation where no one anticipates disaster, the purchasing power is still strong. I rented a large truck and headed straight for the agricultural wholesale market. Mom, rice, flour, and oil are essential. Don't forget to buy high-calorie stuff. Chocolate, spam, candy, coal. Coal is the most important. That stuff will be black gold in the future. And a generator. Buy a diesel generator, a silent one. Holding a small notebook, I listened to my son's instructions and placed orders like crazy. Boss, 5 tons of wuchang rice. 3 tons of flour. 100 barrels of cooking oil. How much of that military compressed biscuits do you have? I want all of it. The wholesale boss smiled from ear to ear, thinking I was from some canteen doing the purchasing. I didn't have time to explain, paid the deposit, and had them delivered to the hillside villa. Next was the coal market. The price of coal is shockingly low now. After all, it's summer, and no one buys this stuff. I ordered 50 tons of anthracite coal in one go, stunning the boss. Girl, are you building a brick kiln? I run a barbecue restaurant. I blurted out a lie. By the time I transported these supplies back to the villa, it was already late at night. Gu Xiai sat by the newly installed fireplace in the living room, listening to the sound of workers moving things outside, his brow furrowed. Aining, how much stuff did you buy? I walked over, sat next to him, and handed him a glass of hot water. Enough for us to eat for 3 years. Gu Xiai was silent. Although he couldn't see, his hearing was exceptionally sharp. The sound of those heavy objects landing was definitely not just simple renovation materials. Is something wrong? He suddenly grabbed my hand, his tone serious. I hesitated. Should I tell him the truth? If I didn't say anything, this much activity would definitely be hard to hide. If I did, would he think I was crazy? Mom, tell Dad. He's blind, not stupid. And Dad is very capable, he knows how to set up security. Last time, even though Dad couldn't see, his hearing had evolved to be particularly strong. He heard Sophie coming with people several times in advance, and that's how we managed to hide. Hearing what my son said, I felt more confident. I leaned close to Goosey's ear and lowered my voice. Goosey, if I told you that in half a month, the world would turn into an ice age, would you believe me? Goosey's fingers stiffened slightly. He didn't immediately retort, nor did he laugh at me. After a long silence, he slowly said, if it's you who said it, I'll believe it. What do you need me to do? At that moment, the stone in my heart finally fell to the ground. This is my husband. No matter how absurd my words are, he will unconditionally stand behind me. We need weapons, I said, and we need to clear out the basement. My son said there's a hot spring down there. Goosey didn't ask who my son was, nor did he ask how I knew. He just nodded and stood up. I know where the entrance to the basement is. Follow me. In the following days, Goosey and I were as busy as spinning tops. Although Goosey couldn't see, he knew the structure of this house like the back of his hand. When he still had power in the Goo family, he personally oversaw the design plans of this building. He led me to a hidden entrance to the basement, which was completely blocked by a pile of construction waste. After clearing the garbage, a wave of heat hit us. There really was a hot spring. And it was a living spring, with very hot and steaming water. The little one in my belly was kicking excitedly. Yay! That's it! This is natural floor heating. As long as the pipes are connected and the hot water circulates throughout the house, we can wear short sleeves inside while everyone outside is freezing. I immediately had someone clean the basement and hired a professional to connect the circulation pump and pipes. At the same time, Goosey used his past connections to obtain a batch of special decoration materials. High-strength compound bows, stab-proof vests, and several specially made batons. Although he couldn't see, his ability to locate sounds was extremely strong. I had watched him practice with the baton in the yard, and with one swing, he accurately shattered a glass bottle thrown 10 meters away. Just as we were preparing feverishly, Sophie came again. This time she didn't come alone, but brought a lawyer in a suit. At this time, the outer walls of the villa had been heightened, and the gate had been replaced with a heavy steel plate door. Sophie stood at the gate, looking at the fortress-like building in front of her. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, followed by deeper jealousy. Jiang Ning! Open the door for me! She frantically rang the doorbell outside. I opened the video intercom, looking at her distorted face, and felt inexplicably good. What is it? You crazy woman, how can you afford to renovate? Did you steal money from the Goo family? Sophie pointed to the lawyer. This is Lawyer Wang. The Goo family now suspects that Goosey embezzled public funds and wants to take back this house to pay off the debt. I sneered. This woman was indeed up to no good. Mom, she's bluffing you. The Goo family didn't audit the accounts at all. She forged the documents herself. She's anxious. She must have sensed that the temperature is starting to drop and wants to seize the house before the extreme cold arrives. I looked at the weather forecast. Indeed, even though it's August, the temperature today is only 20 degrees Celsius, a full 10 degrees lower than yesterday. People on the street only feel the coolness and don't realize it's a precursor to disaster. Embezzling public funds? I sneered into the microphone. Where's the evidence? Get out if you can't produce it. Goosey has already been kicked out of the Goo family. This house has his name on it in black and white. You want to seize it? No way. That lawyer Wang adjusted his glasses, looking very businesslike. Miss Jiang, if you don't cooperate, we can only apply to the court for compulsory execution. Go ahead and apply. I was fearless. The court's procedures will take at least half a month. By then, will you even be alive to take the house? Sophie's face changed. She clearly understood what I implied. In half a month, the extreme cold would have arrived, the entire social order would have collapsed, and who would care about court judgments? Jiang Ning, Don't push your luck. Sophie panicked and even ordered the 2 bodyguards behind her, "Pry open the door for me. I don't believe I can't handle her." The 2 bodyguards took out crowbars and started working on my new front door. Bang! Bang! The steel door made dull sounds but didn't budge. This was an explosion-proof door I had custom-made at great expense. Forget crowbars, even explosives might not be able to open it. I glanced at Gusiai sitting on the sofa. He was quietly wiping his compound bow, without any expression on his face. "Ning, turn on the power," he said calmly. I was stunned for a moment, then reacted. The electric fence on the wall. I walked to the control panel and turned on the power without hesitation. Zzzzz. There were 2 screams outside. The 2 bodyguards who tried to climb over the wall were electrocuted as soon as they touched the wire mesh, convulsed, and fell from the top of the wall. Sophie screamed in fear and retreated. "Murder! Jiangning, you dare to murder!" I said coldly into the microphone, "This is private property. Trespassers are responsible for the consequences. If you don't get out, I'll turn the voltage to the maximum." Sophie looked at the bodyguards foaming at the mouth on the ground, then at the closed steel door, and finally became afraid. She glared at me venomously, threw down a "you just wait," and fled in a panic with her people. Well done, Mom. That was so satisfying. That bad woman deserves it. But she definitely won't let it go. We need to hurry up and bring in the remaining supplies. I turned off the intercom, my palms were covered in sweat. Although I acted tough just now, I knew that the real battle had just begun. Since Sophie is reborn, she must know how terrible the extreme cold is. For survival, she will use any means. And we must be even more ruthless than her. After Sophie's disturbance, I dared not slack off even more. In the remaining days, I was hoarding supplies almost without sleep. Besides food and daily necessities, I made a special trip to the pharmacy for a sweep. Cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, vitamins, gauze and alcohol, I emptied the shelves of all the common medicines I could find. Gu Xiai wasn't idle either. He set up many simple traps around the villa. Some were nail boards buried in the grass, and some were bells hanging from the trees. We would know immediately if anyone approached. The place where this unfinished building originally had no walls was also bricked up by him directing the workers, leaving only a hidden back door. As time went by, the weather became more and more bizarre. Originally, it was the heat of August, but in the past few days, the temperature has plummeted all the way. It dropped from 20 degrees to 10 degrees, and then to 5 degrees. People wearing short sleeves disappeared from the streets, and everyone took out their thermal underwear. The news began to report abnormal low-temperature phenomena in various places, and experts were still arguing about whether this was an abnormal manifestation of the El Niño phenomenon. Only I know that this is not abnormal, this is the end of the world. On the last day, I settled the wages for all the workers and gave each person an extra 2,000 yuan bonus. Everyone go home, buy more food, the weather has been strange lately. That's all I can do, and I can't control whether they believe it or not. After sending the workers away, I locked the gate and closed all the curtains. The floor heating in the house has already been turned on, and the hot spring water is circulating in the pipes, making the whole room warm as spring. Gu Xiai and I sat in the living room full of supplies, watching the news on TV. At this time, it had already started to snow outside. At first, it was just sporadic light snow, but soon it turned into heavy snow. The wind was howling, like ghosts crying. It's coming! Mom! The extreme cold storm is coming. Tonight the temperature will plummet to -30 degrees. Tomorrow it will be -50 degrees. That green tea bitch must be frantically looking for a place to hide now. I nervously grabbed Gu Xi's hand. Gu Xi held my hand back, his palm warm and dry. Don't be afraid, we are home. Just then, the phone rang. It was a WeChat voice message from Sophie. The background noise was full of wind and chattering teeth. Sister. Sister. Let me in. Please. It's too cold outside. I know I was wrong. I won't dare anymore. You are my own sister. Listening to the trembling voice, I didn't feel a trace of emotion in my heart. In the previous life, what did she say when Gusiai and I begged her to open the door in the snow? She said, "Oh, sister, there is not enough food in the house. How can we survive with 2 more mouths? You might as well freeze to death outside, which can save some food." I still remember the despair at that time clearly. I turned off the phone and threw it aside. Let's sleep. I pulled Gusiai up. Even if the sky falls tonight, don't open the door. That night, the wind and snow raged. The entire city seemed to be instantly frozen by an invisible giant hand. The power system collapsed in the dead of night, plunging the surroundings into a silent darkness. Only a faint, warm light shone from my windows. The generator hummed smoothly in the basement, and the flames danced in the fireplace. Lying in bed, listening to the dull thud of the wind battering against the blast-proof glass, I felt an unprecedented sense of peace. In this life, I finally protected my home. When I woke up the next day, the world had changed. Looking out through the cracks in the window, everything was a vast expanse of white. The snow had piled up to a meter thick, roadside trees were broken, vehicles were buried, and the whole city was like a giant ice-sculpted tomb. The indoor thermometer showed 22 degrees Celsius, while the outdoor thermometer's needle had already maxed out, stuck at -50 degrees Celsius. I cooked a pot of steaming millet porridge, fried some eggs, and a plate of sizzling luncheon meat. The aroma filled the entire house. Gusiai sat at the dining table, drinking the porridge with leisurely elegance. Although he couldn't see, his movements while eating were still as refined as a nobleman. "The power's out," he said. "Yeah, the community group chat is going crazy." I took out a spare phone, connected to the house's satellite internet, and opened the homeowners group chat. The group was full of wails. "What's going on? Why is it suddenly so cold? My pipes are all frozen. Where's the management? Why did the heating stop? It's summer. Does anyone have extra blankets? I'll pay a high price. My child is crying from the cold." Panic spread like a virus. Many people didn't have thick clothes prepared at all, let alone heating equipment. In this extreme cold, without heating, ordinary houses would quickly turn into iceboxes. I watched silently, saying nothing. Exposing that you have supplies at this time is just asking for death. Just then, the villa's gate monitor rang. Several figures appeared on the screen. It was Sophie, along with that lawyer Wang from yesterday, and a few burly men I didn't recognize. They were wrapped in thick down jackets, even draped in quilts, looking like a group of refugee penguins. Sophie's face was blue with cold, her eyebrows covered in frost. She was holding a rock, desperately smashing my gate. "Jiang Ning, I know you're in there. You have electricity. You have heating. Open the door, or we won't be polite." Her voice was hoarse, with a hint of madness. Clearly, she was truly driven to the brink. Gusiai put down his spoon, his brow furrowing slightly. "They still haven't given up." I sneered, "Then let them give up completely." I turned on the loudspeaker, and my voice carried outside. "Sophie, are you deaf? This is my house, you're not welcome. Jiang Ning, you heartless bitch." Sophie screamed hysterically outside, "I'm your sister. Are you just going to watch me freeze to death? You didn't care about my life or death back then either," I said calmly. "That was in a past life. I haven't harmed you in this life." Sophie blurted out what she really thought in her desperation. The people next to her were stunned, looking at her like she was crazy. But they didn't have time to worry about past or future lives. Their survival instincts made them focus on this warm villa. That lawyer Wang stepped forward, trembling as he shouted, "Miss Jiang, this is a moment of emergency avoidance. If you don't open the door, we have the right to break in. This is a right granted to us by law." "Law?" I laughed. "Lawyer Wang, look around you. Does the law even exist anymore?" Outside was deathly silence. The signal tower had long since frozen and broken, you couldn't even make an emergency call. The police? Rescue teams? They were all struggling to take care of themselves. Stop talking nonsense with her. Smash it. One of the strong men grew impatient, raised the sledgehammer in his hand, and slammed it hard against the door. Bang! The loud metallic crash made people's eardrums hurt. A piece of paint was knocked off the door, but the steel plate remained strong. Smash it again. I don't believe we can't break it. Several people took turns, attacking the door like maniacs. I watched the monitor, still a little nervous. Even though the door was strong, what if? Mom! Don't be afraid. Soak them with water. These idiots, daring to stand outside at -50 degrees, give them a shower. My son's words reminded me. My villa had a high-pressure sprinkler system installed specifically for fire prevention, with the water source directly connected to an underground hot spring. Even though the water that came out was hot, in this temperature, the corners of my mouth curled into a cold smile. Since you want to come in so badly, then take a hot shower first. I pressed a red button. Several concealed sprinkler heads above the door suddenly sprayed powerful jets of water. The scalding hot spring water drenched the group of people. At first, they were stunned for a moment, thinking it was quite warm. But the next second, a nightmare descended. The water soaked their down jackets and blankets, and then, in the -50-degree air, instantly froze. In just a few seconds, the clothes on those people's bodies turned into hard armor. The soaked fabric clung tightly to their skin, and the bone-chilling cold was enough to freeze their souls. Ah! Cold! I'm freezing to death. Help! My clothes are frozen. They let out shrill screams, threw away the tools in their hands, and desperately tried to tear off the icy shells on their bodies. Sophie was even more miserable. Her hair was wet and had frozen into a clump of ice, making it difficult for her to even turn her head. Jiangning! You are so cruel! She cried out, retreating like a stiff puppet. Get out! I roared into the microphone, come again, and I'll turn you into ice sculptures. A group of people ran away with their tails between their legs. Watching their disheveled figures, I breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, I saw Gu Xi standing behind me. Although he couldn't see what had just happened, he could guess what happened from the sound. A ning. He gently hugged me. You did the right thing. To deal with wolves, you have to be more ruthless than wolves. The next half-month passed both slowly and peacefully. Outside was simply hell. People in the group posted obituaries every day. People were either freezing to death or starving to death. Some people whose families had run out of food began to take risks, prying open neighbors' doors and seizing supplies. The once civilized and harmonious community had become a primitive jungle of the survival of the fittest. And my home was like another world. Except for not being able to go out, the quality of life had not decreased at all. We cooked meals in different ways every day. Hot pot, barbecue, braised pork ribs. The aroma drifted out through the exhaust fan, probably making the survivors within a few kilometers cry with envy. But I knew this peace was only temporary. The real crisis was yet to come. Sophie wouldn't let it go, and those who were starving wouldn't let go of this piece of fat meat that we were. Sure enough, the alarms sounded late that night. Not the doorbell, but the bells that Gu Xi had set up outside the wall. Ring, ring, ring. The rapid ringing was especially jarring in the silent night. Gu Xi instantly jumped out of bed and grabbed the compound bow from under his pillow. They're here. His voice was frighteningly calm. I quickly put on my clothes and went to the monitor. The screen was pitch black because the power was out and the street lights had long gone out. But I could still see a dense crowd of people by the reflection of the snow. It wasn't just Sophie's group. There were 20 or 30 people. They were holding all kinds of weapons, axes, kitchen knives, iron bars, and some were even holding homemade Molotov cocktails. Sophie was in the lead. She was wrapped up like a ball, holding a megaphone in her hand. Listen up, everyone. This is it. This woman has a generator. Heating. And a basement full of food. If we break in, we can survive. Charge together, everyone. This woman is insane. She's actually inciting the surrounding mob, trying to use a human wave tactic to break through my fortress. What do we do? I looked at the dark mass of people, my palms sweating. Even the sturdiest door can't withstand such a frenzied attack from so many people. And they have fire. Don't panic. Gusiai drew his bow and knocked an arrow, walking to the second-floor balcony. Although he can't see, his ears twitched, as if catching the sounds in the wind. Aning, give me the coordinates. I took a deep breath, staring at the monitor screen. Directly in front of the gate, 10 meters, 2 people, holding Molotov cocktails. Roger. Gusiai released his fingers. Whoosh, a sharp arrow pierced the night sky, carrying a whistling sound. Smash! One of the people hadn't even thrown the Molotov cocktail in his hand before it was shattered by the arrow. The alcohol splashed out, instantly igniting the person's clothes. Ah! Fire! Fire! The person turned into a human torch, rolling around and screaming in the snow. The crowd instantly panicked. What's going on? Is there an ambush? They have archers. Sophie shouted from behind, don't be afraid. He's blind. He's definitely just guessing. Everyone, charge. Burn them to death. Left, 5 meters, Sophie. I gritted my teeth and reported the position. Gusiai drew his bow again. This time, it was rapid fire. Whoosh! 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 3 arrows shot out in a triangular formation. Although none hit Sophie's vitals, 1 arrow grazed her scalp, shearing off her messy, frozen hair. Another arrow pierced through the megaphone in her hand. Sophie was so frightened that she sat down on the ground with a thud, letting out a pig-like scream. A ghost! He's a ghost! Those who originally wanted to charge were also intimidated by the accurate archery. Blind? A blind man? More like a sharpshooter. Anyone who dares to take another step forward will get an arrow between the eyes. Gusiai stood on the balcony, his voice not loud, but filled with a chilling murderous intent. At this moment, the little one in my belly wasn't idle either. Mom! The trap to the left of the wall. Someone's trying to climb over. Right. Someone's digging a hole on the right. This kid was practically cheating with full map vision. Based on my son's prompts, I kept calling out locations to Gusiai. Gusiai was like a precise killing machine, every arrow hitting its mark without fail. The one climbing the wall got shot through the thigh, and the one digging the hole got shot in the butt. Although we didn't really want to kill anyone, this kind of deterrence was enough. In less than 10 minutes, the originally aggressive mob had completely collapsed. The ground was covered with moaning people, and the rest looked at the dark but dangerous villa with fear in their eyes. This wasn't some easy prey at all, but a thorny iron plate. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, Sophie got up and tried to run. Trying to run? My eyes turned cold. This woman was nothing but trouble if she stayed. Gusiai, 2 o'clock, that's Sophie. Gusiai didn't hesitate and drew his bowstring again. This arrow is for the sake of us in our past life. Thwack! The arrow whistled through the air. This time, it hit Sophie squarely in the calf. She screamed and fell into the snow, unable to get up again. The remaining people didn't dare to stay any longer, dragging the wounded and scrambling into the darkness. After that night, no one dared to covet our home again. The hillside villa became forbidden territory in the area. Everyone said that a pair of ruthless devils lived inside, the man a blind archer with perfect aim, and the woman a crazy hag with witchcraft. I couldn't be bothered to explain. This kind of notoriety was sometimes more effective than any security door. The extreme cold lasted for a month, 2 months. Although life was difficult, the 3 of us lived relatively well. My belly grew bigger and bigger, and the little one became more and more active. Mom, I want sauerkraut fish. Mom, I want braised pork. I touched my belly and scolded with a smile, you glutton, can't you have a little ambition? People outside are gnawing on tree bark. Although I said that, Goosey I would still try to find a way to satisfy me. There was still plenty of fish and meat left in the freezer. In the month when my due date was approaching, the weather finally showed signs of warming up. The temperature rose back to -20 degrees Celsius. Even though it's still cold, it's a blessing for someone who has experienced 50 degrees below zero. That day, Goosey I was making a small wooden bed for the unborn child. The villa's gate was suddenly knocked on. Not a violent banging, but a very polite, very restrained knocking. I opened the monitor and was stunned. It was actually Goo's head butler. Behind him were a few people in thick coats, looking like bodyguards, but they were carrying gift boxes instead of weapons. "Miss Jiang, young Master Gu, it's me, old Jiang." The butler bowed to the camera. "The master asked me to come see you and bring you some things." "People from the Gu family? They kicked Goosey out like trash, and now they're bringing gifts. Something's fishy. Mom, don't trust this old thing. He's here to beg for help." The Gu family's mansion is luxurious, but it's not well insulated, and Sophie, that spendthrift, secretly sold half of their supplies to buy bags. Now old Master Gu is sick from the cold and about to die. They want to take Dad back to take charge and seize our supplies. So that's how it is. Goosey sat next to me, the small wooden bed already polished smooth. He didn't even look up. "Tell them to get lost." I turned on the intercom, my tone cold. "Goosey isn't here, and there's no young master here. You've come to the wrong place." The butler was anxious. "Miss Jiang, you can't say that. Blood is thicker than water. The master is seriously ill and wants to see the young master one last time. When you kicked Goosey out, why didn't you say blood is thicker than water?" I retorted. "Back then, Goosey had just gone blind, and you even stopped his medical expenses, afraid he'd benefit from the family. Now that you have nothing to eat or drink, you remember him? Tell old Master Gu, Goosey gave up hope on that snowy night. The current Goosey belongs only to me, Jiang Ning." Seeing that being nice didn't work, the butler's expression changed, but looking at the towering walls and the legendary archer, he didn't dare to force his way in after all. He lingered at the door for a long time and finally had to leave dejectedly. Goosey put down his woodworking and came over to hug me from behind. His chin rested on my shoulder, his voice a little muffled. "Ning, thank you." "Thank you for what?" "Thank you for scolding them for me." I turned around, cupped his face, and looked at those eyes that still lacked focus but seemed to have a glimmer of light. "Silly, we are family." On the day the baby was born, it was snowing lightly outside. There was no top medical team, no luxurious delivery room. Only Goosey was by my side, holding the sterilized scissors and hot water that he had prepared long ago. We had watched countless childbirth videos during pregnancy and done countless rehearsals. Although the conditions were simple, I wasn't afraid at all. Because I have the most reliable husband in the world, and a magical baby who knew how to protect his mother even before he was born. When labor pains hit, I felt like I was dying. Goosey held my hand, his palm full of sweat, more nervous than I was. "Ning, inhale. Exhale." The little one in my belly wasn't idle either, still cheering me on. "Mom. Push. I see the head. I'm a big-headed baby, you gotta bear with it. Almost there. Just one last push." Wah! A loud cry pierced the silence of the villa. It was a big, fat boy. Goosey took the baby with trembling hands, tears streaming down his cheeks. This was his first time being a father, and although he couldn't see, he carefully groped the baby's features, as if to engrave this moment in his soul. "Ning, look, he seems to be smiling." I weakly glanced at the red little monkey. That little rascal was indeed smiling. Oh my gosh, I'm finally out. This world is a bit cold, but the air is so fresh. Daddy's holding me so comfortably, I'll be Daddy's guide dog in the future. No, a guide kid. I couldn't help but laugh, and tears followed. In this life, we both survived. And we were doing well. The extreme cold completely ended a year later. The temperature returned to normal, the ice and snow melted, and everything recovered. The city began to rebuild, and order slowly returned. The Gu family was completely ruined in that disaster. Old Master Gu didn't make it through that winter. Sophie's leg was crippled, turning her into a real cripple, begging madly on the streets all day long. And Gu Xiai, relying on the supplies we had stockpiled during the extreme cold and his remote online investments, quickly accumulated his first pot of gold. Although he was still blind, that didn't stop him from becoming a legend in the business world. Everyone said that although CEO Gu was blind, his heart was as clear as a mirror, and he was ridiculously lucky, always accurately avoiding risks. Only I knew that it was all thanks to our little strategist, Guanin. Anin started talking early since she was a child, and she often said amazing things. "Dad, don't buy that land, there's an ancient tomb underneath. If you buy it, you'll have to stop work for archaeology. Dad, that uncle is a liar. He's thinking about running away with the money." Gu Xiai listened to his son's words and doted on Anin. I also renovated the unfinished building again, turning it into a real mansion. The basement that once saved our lives was converted into a wine cellar and a home theater. But I still kept that hot spring. That was the starting point of our rebirth, and also the guardian of our family. That day, I stood on the balcony, watching Gu Xiai playing with Anin in the garden. One big and one small, their laughter was crisp. The sun shone on them, warm and bright. I thought of the afternoon I tore up the divorce agreement, and the snowy night. If I had signed that paper, if I hadn't listened to my son's inner voice back then, perhaps I would already be a pile of bones by now. Destiny is truly a wondrous thing. Anin suddenly looked up and waved at me. "Mom, come down and play. Dad said he's going to teach me archery." I smiled and replied, "Coming. No matter what storms lie ahead in the future. As long as we are together as a family, we have nothing to fear." This is the best ending.